Well, hello everyone on this fine Maida Monday, Stevie. Yeah, hell of a game, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I feel I've aged even more after that, Hamish. There's so many digs about what my actual age is, but that was a horrible, long draining second half. But relief is the total feeling coming away for that now.
Yeah, like most good Hollywood films, it had a nice ending, I guess. But yeah, for long spells in that match, especially the second half, I think we were all kind of feeling that it was going to end in a different way. I don't even really know the best way to tackle this because so much happened. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that was the most action-packed, kind of most talking points derby I can remember in a good while in terms of chances and certain players' performances that will come on to in both sides, and potential penalty calls not being given, of course, and some being given, of course. I mean, what ones I'm talking about, although I do think that was a stonewall. I just want to say we'll come on and chat about all of that. First of all, Stevie, line-up, when you go back to the team coming out at 11:15, it's fair to say that it surprised people in a couple of areas, right side mainly.
Yeah, I mean, beforehand, we got told half an hour beforehand that there's a strong possibility that James Forrest was starting, and traditionally James Forrest hasn't turned up at Ibrox, but I know you're not looking at the past too much when it comes to James Forrest. It's about what he does under Ange now, and that's fair enough. So I think domestically this season, Ange has got it spot on, other than the St Mirren game, and a lot of people that are moaning about the lineups that he's went with, generally they've been he's bodied them because it's always been the right lineup. But I think today, choosing James Forrest was a mistake, definitely. Of course, Alistair Jones came back in there as well, making his debut, and I think a lot of us thought Juranovic was going to be starting. We'll come on right onto him soon, I'm guessing. But yeah, that was the main two calls, wasn't it? It was Johnston and Forrest, and it was strange as well because when you look at Rangers down that left-hand side, Barisic has had a howler against us on more than one occasion. Admittedly, not so much at Ibrox, usually at Celtic Park, but I feel that if it was a missed opportunity not to get at him right away today, and I feel that if we started Jota or Abada, we might have started better today.
I didn't have a massive issue with James Forrest starting. I didn't. I mean, Ange's had James Forrest come in and out. Maybe Tynecastle was on his mind when Forrest had a pretty good game, got the opening goal that day. Johnston, I predicted it, everyone. I've been telling you all week. I tweeted about it. I said it on the preview with Ryan that I felt that Johnson would start. For me, a good shout for man of the match. I think, when a performance went down in the second half, he was probably the one you would look at who still, was doing what you'd want to see from him, not shirking out of challenges, etc. The team generally, I didn't have a problem. I thought O'Reilly was kind of alright as well. I know he's been getting a bit of a hard time, both recently and in terms of today as well, but I thought he kind of got stuck in to an extent in the first half, did some nice things away as well. Gave the ball away a wee bit, but most of our players did. So generally looking at the team, Ange's got so many options at the moment. I think if that's a team you name for like an away game at even someone like Hibs or Hearts, I don't think you're going to be talking about it. It's just because these games against Rangers are so important and kind of tend to define our league seasons. But generally didn't have a problem. Game starts and again, the start for the first couple of minutes that I think we maybe had been hoping not to see. Rangers were right at us. I thought we looked a little bit rattled. And then out of nowhere, our second best player in the day, Alfredo Morelos, assists Maida. He goes in and goal. He runs past a abhorrently weak challenge from their so-called captain, James Tavernier. He skips past Goldson as well and slots it in for me, one of the most iconic goals at Ibrox in the last 10 years. Amazing.
Yeah, it was a great finish, but I commented on the sheer strength of Maeda, the way that he tried to get muscled off the ball and bossed off it, and he was so strong leading through to the goal, but he had so much time to think about that as well, and it's a very smart finish under McGregor. It's weird as well because when he was going through, we both felt as if he's going to do it here, whereas I've been very openly critical of Daizen Maeda for like that month of maybe October to November, and I'll put my hands up about it. And I have said since he's came back for the World Cup, he's just been a different player, and that finish today was just exceptional because I mean the way that McGregor came out to try and narrow the angle, put it under him, and he was so calm about it. He didn't panic, and then when he made it 1-0, you felt as if we were going to go on, and if it was a great platform for us, you were going to go on to maybe get a second or a third with the way that we started. Didn't really turn out that way, but it was a fantastic goal by Maeda.
It did feel a wee bit at that stage to me anyway, like those kind of Rodgers days when you would start the derby and Ibrox would be jumping, as it always is before a game, regardless of how the teams are going into it, and we just kind of burst that bubble early on with that goal from Maida. And I was really thinking at that stage, their fans were turning on the players. They looked really uncertain, Rangers. They could barely string 2 passes together. I was really thinking, this team is there to be got at. I thought we got into good areas as well after that. We really controlled the game for the first half an hour. It was honestly, even when they tried to press us, we were playing out, and I think we were just commenting to each other, just saying, we are so much better than this team. We play football. They can barely pass the ball, 2 times in a row. We can just keep the ball for 2 minutes. And maybe the only complaint at that stage was that our final ball was lacking a wee bit. Kyogo had the one that he kind of lashes at and miskicks it when he should probably do better. There's a cut of one Maida fizzed across the box that Forrest should probably been in the end of.
If that's a badder, he's anticipating that as well.
Yeah, possibly. But generally felt quite in control. And now 2 things happen, I think, in the game. The first one, and this is where we take a slight deviation, everyone, into perhaps the funniest moment of the day. Greg Taylor goes off. Don't usually swear on the channel, but fuck off, fat boy, was what he said to Morelos, which is ironically what my girlfriend said to me the other night when I came in stinking a drink. But anyway, he says that, which is amazing. It's obvious he says it, and you can clearly see him saying it. We all turned round and said he's called him fat boy there. That was pretty funny. People are itching for us to chat about that.
That was good patter, yes. I get the seal of approval from myself. What more is there to say?
Well, Taylor then goes off.
Yeah.
Juranovic comes on. First of all, Bernabe was on the bench, wasn't he?
Yes.
I think we both feel that Bernabe would potentially have been a little bit erratic in that fixture, but Juranovic certainly was.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold back here with Juranovic. I have went on record here saying how much I think he's our best right back and how happy I am we've got a player like him, but his performance when he came on, and a lot of people might not want to hear this, and I know that I don't want to come across too negative after a result like that. It was draining, and there's bits of the performance that you do have to take into account there, and I thought Juranovic was a disgrace today when he came on, and I'm using that word because it was the basics. I'm here saying with Bernabe, if he came on he would have been erratic positioning, he's all over the park, and he's not. He's used to the ball, isn't comfortable, isn't sort of decent enough for us in a game like that, because we saw at Tynecastle what it was like. But when I saw Juranovic's performance today, it was unacceptable. And you've got to remember, Juranovic made his debut against Rangers at left back, and
he played there a lot for us.
Yeah, he did, and he was very comfortable there. He was assured, and he was a great outball for us at that time as well. We had defence that was still sort of learning and putting itself together.
Yeah,
there was no excuses for Juranovic there today to be slipping up with the absolute basics. I'm talking about positioning. I'm talking about just barely making a pass to a man. Everything in that first half that could have went wrong for him did, and you're just thinking, right, you get to half time, have the manager have a word in his ear, just get to that second half. But he was even worse then, and I'm sure we'll come on to it too. But yeah, that was a defining moment with Greg Taylor going off. It says a lot about Greg Taylor that
it does,
how
100%.
we capitulated in that position after he went off.
Because I would be prepared normally to look at a right back playing at left back. Listen, I was a terrible right back in the day, and I played at left back a couple of games, and your whole game changes because you're playing on the opposite side, you're playing on your opposite foot most of the time. The whole kind of positioning and your kind of comfort in the game changes when you're moved. So I'm almost prepared. I would have been prepared to say that about Juranovic, but we've seen him play so well and for Celtic at left back, to the extent that I'm convinced if he'd have started the game at right back, he would probably have been just as poor, and it really validates Ange's decision there. I know some people look at Ange's team selection today in some areas maybe, but it really validates that call, and my call, by the way, that Johnson should have started, and Scott McDonald as well. He might be watching at whatever time it is, because he pointed out, he effectively said, are you wanting to play a player who could be leaving in the next couple of weeks in such a big fixture, or would you rather someone who's come in and been hungry?
I did give Juranovic the benefit of the doubt, saying he's an excellent professional, and I personally wouldn't have seen all the speculation getting to his head. I thought, when you look what he did for Legia Warsaw before he left, he scored a screamer in a very important game against Slavia Prague, and he got you Legia through to your Europa League group stage, didn't he? So I thought, okay, if he's going to go into a higher level, then fair enough, but he's going to give his all. People are still watching him, and after a performance like that, all eyes would have been on him, and more suitors would have been more teams would have been coming in for him and everything like that. I'm not saying obviously he's not going to get a big move after it, defined on like one 65-minute performance, but it was, I mean, serious red flags if you're another team looking at him after that.
Yeah, I don't even feel like it was a case for me personally that he was like turning up thinking he would just walk. I just think he was. The first thing he did was there was a 50-50 with whatever player it was, and he lost it. He pulled out of it, and I called it straight away. I said, that's a guy trying to protect himself. I don't want to spend ages chatting about him because we've got a positive result today. So let's move on. The final thing, here just mentioned from Gucci, has to be sink or swim for Bernat. If Taylor's out for a game or two, JJ doesn't deserve any game time for a good while. Listen, Juranovic has been a great player for Celtic. I personally would happily see him kind of move on. If that's the level of his performance, so different from what we've seen, and I'm happy for Celtic to take their money and move on. The other thing that happened that I wanted to touch on was the Joe Hart moment. Would look so composed up until that point, passing out from the back. Hart dithers and dithers and dithers. Morelos kind of blocks it. The ball stays in. I would have liked to see if it had gone in, whether VAR would have looked at it, whether it actually did go out. Hart actually makes a really good save from Kent. Starfelt then makes a fabulous block, but it just gave them encouragement. The whole stadium, which had been quiet up until that point, was loud again. And kind of from that point, for the rest of the match, we looked a different team.
We both said it to each other watching that game, how that for the rest of the match we have to now see it out. We were in the front foot, and we were then being reactive after that. We were chasing Rangers, and they were first to every sort of second ball and everything after that. But that was a massive moment for Hart. Now, if he just launches it up the park or plays it out wide, we're going on to make start another move from it, and fair enough. But that was poor from him because Rangers got such a lift after that, and they saw that we were there to be got at. They were not in the game whatsoever at that point. They created their first chance after it, and then after that they realised, alright, we'll put them under pressure. They get a couple of corners. Morelos heads one over the bar and then by, which again Juranovic is just watching him, daydreaming at the back post, and he's put it by the post. But we got away with it a couple of times. Defo after that, and that was a big factor in the game, and it gave them so much encouragement for the second half getting into it.
Yeah, it's such a strange reaction this, because we're the team who's gone to Ibrox and got a positive result, and it probably says a lot about where the two teams sit at the moment, that they're going to probably be the ones coming away from it feeling better about themselves. We've got such high standards. I mean, if they'd have come to Celtic Park and come away with a 2-2 draw, they'd be absolutely delighted, but I think we all know this team's capable of so much more. Having said that, there were really good performances today. I mean, I thought Callum McGregor had a really good game. I thought Dyson Maeda was superb. I thought Alistair Johnson, as I say, was potentially man of the match. Cameron Carter-Vickers was immense.
Brilliant.
That one right at
the end when he's got three Rangers players all about him and he still comes out with the ball. I mean, this just goes to, we have said time and time again that Cameron Carter-Vickers and Callum McGregor are our two most important players. Without them today, we don't get the result. But I also have to say, I thought Johnston making his debut right back, not an easy game for him to get thrown into, and he excelled today. And I've made a point here saying it reminded me a lot of El Hamed's game in the 2019 match.
Give you that.
But he was so solid, just like Johnston. Although Johnston was very good going forward, to El Hamed was just strictly in our half. But that was the parallels.
He looks like he's got everything. He's a big boy.
So
he gets stuck in. Someone was commenting there that he put Lundstrom in his place a few times, but seemed to get the ball as well when he did it. He wasn't just taking Lundstrom out for the sake of it like he might do. He was getting the ball. The challenge he had on the left hand side, our right hand side, was a great challenge, and I thought generally he was just brilliant. He was getting forward. He had one real good cutback for Forrest as well, that Forrest kind of went to the byline. Nothing came of it in the first half. That's right. Really good at picking a man out. We saw that at the World Cup. Really good engine, and his attitude is excellent. When I met him at Celtic Park alongside the rest of the media, that was kind of meeting him that day and seeing how confident he is. That was kind of part of my thinking for why I thought Ange would throw him in today, because I don't think he would be fazed by that. I honestly think he is the kind of guy who is on an upward curve in his career, and I think starting a game like today, I don't think he would know the magnitude of the game, but also not being here for that long, he maybe wouldn't. And I just thought he went into it and really was just excellent. He was getting stuck in. He was an attacking threat. I think we'll see more of the attacking threat in other games, because the nature of today's game meant he was generally defensive, but he didn't put a foot wrong. His positioning was great, and I just want to highlight that because I really think for a debut, at Ibrox, the toughest domestic game we played was fabulous.
Just very touching on the positioning part of
I'm
it as
going to
well.
turn you up
Hamish.
slightly, sorry.
On the positioning part of it as well, just he knew in that first half when to go inside, when to stay out wide, when to drop back, and when to push forward. Everything he did in that first half was excellent. When we were on the front foot, you noticed how confident and how much he was excelling for us, and I thought personally he didn't put a foot wrong at all.
Let us know in the live chat, how much time do you want us to spend on kind of most of the second half, and do you want us to just skip forward to the Kyogo goal, because it was a tough watch. It was a really tough watch, and it just felt like it wasn't going our way. We weren't playing our football at all. And I know a point you wanted to make was, in fact the title for the video the other day was, Celtic thrive in chaos, and we've tended to do it. I don't think we thrived in chaos today. I thought we looked disorientated and
shell shocked was the word I used after that
actually,
second half.
And you don't expect it for this team.
No, you don't. And there are going to be spells in that game as well that we did say, look, they're going to have a good 5-10 minute spell where they're going to create more chances, and it is at Ibrox, and there's a reason they are unbeaten at Ibrox. A lot of people do tend to forget. There was a lot of chat before this that we were going to just turn up and play them off the park and win. It's not going to be that type of game. They're a physical team. We're not a physical team in that respect, Hamish, and I know you were talking about it at times in the second half. We just needed a real physical player in there. You know that Ange isn't going to resort to that though. He's never going to buy that type of player, but that's why it was going to be such a difficult game getting into this one. And that second half was a tough watch. I felt it's a combination, to be fair to them. Rangers did lift it, you can't say they didn't. They were far better than us in the second half.
And that crowd as well.
Aye, they had a massive lift, and again that came from that Hart mistake, but a lot of it as well was just down to us, like our performances for some individuals were just right off it. And what I do want to say is, if Greg Taylor doesn't go off, then I don't feel we're losing certainly that first goal, because in fact both of them look where both of them came from. I don't want to turn this into a Juranovic hatchet job, but I do have to sort of.
They were targeting him as well.
Of course they were targeting him, because they knew that right away there he was so weak, he was off it, and I think mentally he just didn't look at it at all today, and they took full advantage of it. If that's Greg Taylor there, totally different performance. In fact, when Greg Taylor was on, how many times did they go down that side and get anything? They didn't. But yeah, that was a really, really tough watch. I've watched many games for Celtic at Ibrox, and I've got to say that second half was a horrible, horrible watch, man.
It's so unlike us as well to be kind of swept up in an atmosphere like that, because it didn't happen to us in the last game at Ibrox. But a perfect example of that today was the penalty they get. I've seen some people say it's not a penalty. For me, it's a stonewall penalty. He catches his foot. It is madness for Starfelt to dive in like that.
No idea
Total
what he was thinking.
Madness. The Rangers player is wide right. He's not getting a shot away. Starfelt is going over to him. I think there's another player in the vicinity as well, probably Juranovic. It is Juranovic. And Starfelt dives in, and it's a stick-on penalty. And I was actually, for all the stuff Juranovic did, that was the most livid I got the whole afternoon, was that Starfelt moment. It was just completely caught up in the atmosphere and diving in like that, and it was ridiculous. They scored a penalty, they go 2-1 up, and I just didn't feel anything was coming. We weren't creating a lot. I think we were both frustrated with how long it was taking to make changes. Jota and Giakoumakis, who both made a big difference, go on with kind of 14-13 minutes to go, and I would have liked to see them on with half an hour to go. We don't know exactly what's happening with both of those guys, for different reasons. I think Jota's a bit unwell apparently, not 100%. Giakoumakis, obviously chat about him leaving, but I felt both of them made a huge difference when they came on. I felt Moy made a difference as well. Yes, at times he's slow, and that was a bit frustrating, but he's the one who gets into that area, and then we get the magic goal to make it 2-2, and everyone around the table, Stevie, starts celebrating, didn't they?
Except for you, and Hamish is right here, because he even got inside my head when the goal went in, and every one of us were going ballistic, and then I turned round to Hamish, and he's just, my phone down here, Hamish is just going like this. I'm saying, what's the matter with you? And he convinced me that VAR was going to call it off, because I think he believed Moy was in an offside position. And then I stopped celebrating, and then I started grabbing people,
started crying.
Shut up. Not yet. I started grabbing everybody, saying no, it's offside. And then turns out we got that one from the side where the replay was in, and Moy was onside, and we just went mental when that went in.
I actually celebrated. I went nuts when I saw that replay, because at the time, I'll need to see it again, but at the time, from the original kind of live camera view, you can't see, it must be Barisic, the left back, who's playing Moy onside. You can only see the other players, and I was convinced Moy was offside, and I had a terrible feeling that you were all going to be dancing around that table going nuts, and then the old VAR was going to come. That was VAR, by the way. He's going to come back and chalk it off. I'm telling you though, I'm never doing that again, because it ruined that moment, because that was an amazing, huge Celtic goal. We were saying, when was the last time we scored a late goal at Ibrox? Of course, Stevie has the answer, by the way.
I think the latest goal we scored at Ibrox was in 1993 when Brian O'Neill scored with his head. It was Lou McCarry's first game, but that's the one I can think of.
But
anyway.
It's frustrating. I get why VAR's there, but that's a big frustration for me, alongside the time it's taken, which wasn't too bad today, is the fact that I kind of missed out on celebrating that. And I know people might say, oh, you should have just celebrated it, but I just would hate to be dancing around that table only for the replay to be and Moy to be offside.
No, I get it. And I know folk obviously want to hear about the goal and not us to Egypt talking about how we celebrated it, but you've got to say, when Jota was marvellous for that goal, Aaron Moy did well, but real big shout out to Kyogo, who was starved of service pretty much all game. It was very ineffectual.
Stevie was turning on him as well.
I was very surprised that he was still in the park, and then this is why the manager is in that dugout getting the big box, and I'm in Egypt sitting in a pub drinking pints, watching the game, because the manager is paid to make the decisions, and he got it right.
And again, sorry, who called it again? Sitting there. I mean, because it was. Who went off, Maida and Hatate, and people were thinking, Kyogo for Giakoumakis straight swap, but I just had a feeling he would go 2 up like he did at Ross County at the start of the season, and it really worked. I mean, I don't know if we get that goal if only Kyogo's there, because I reckon Kyogo's probably in Giakoumakis' position. Aye,
because a lot of their I think when Giakoumakis came on, they were obviously feeling it was a physical presence and it was like another dimension to our game, and you had Goldson really targeting him, and it sort of freed up that space for Kyogo. But I have to say, what a finish. Like, see, the amount of bodies in that box, he had to hit it high and get a lot of power on it, and he did. I thought it was so emphatic.
And the Celtic support, we've already seen the replays, the Celtic support going crazy, amazing.
It's amazing, especially with that reduced allocation as well, making their voices heard. Fantastic to see, but no, well done to the manager for keeping Kyogo, and well done to Kyogo for finally scoring against Rangers. And it's, when we look back on it, how important it could really be at the end of the season.
Well, that's the big thing here. Listen, the league is handed out because of one thing, and it's your points tally. And that is the only thing that matters here. We can feel, up or down about certain parts of the games. The black and white of it is Celtic are 9 points clear. We've navigated Ibrox, if you want to use that word. We've gone to Ibrox, our toughest away game. We only need to go one more time this season, and we've come away without defeat in such a tough game when they've played probably just about as well as they can play, and we were so under par. I think if it's flipped, and if they come to Celtic Park and play that badly, they lose 3 or 4-0 like they have done. We went there, played pretty poorly for the majority of the game, and still this team had enough in about them, even when they were so poor today. Even when other parts of their games that we've become accustomed to seeing weren't there, they still had the bravery and quality to play through and to get that late equaliser. And it's a massive goal. It is, honestly, I know some people wanted this, well, we all wanted us to win today, but in terms of, that draw, what a big result that is and what a big goal that is, keeps it at 9 points. It also has the knock-on effect of just kind of halting them in their tracks a little bit, because if they had won that today, they would have fancied themselves to win the league. They'd all have been talking about it. We would have been the ones who had to respond. As it is, I think we'll still see a response from Celtic, but we're 9 points clear, and it was magic.
That's well summed up. I still think Ange himself will have been unhappy at how we let the control in that game sort of get away from us, and as we've talked about with the chaos and everything, we didn't thrive on it. We sort of let it overwhelm us, if you will. So I don't think the manager will be fully happy at that. I think when it comes to going to Ibrox and not getting beat, I did say before the game that's all I wanted, not to get beat there. It would have handed such an incentive to them. They would have gained so much confidence from it, and the fans as well. They would have been so G'd up at the end of that as well if they stopped their unbeaten run. As it stands, we are still unbeaten, and that's now. That's now unbeaten Ibrox again. Then out, and then also last season as well. We only lost that 1-0 game, wasn't it? I mean, it's difficult fixtures any time we've went
tough,
there. It's
a
tough place to go.
Especially with 700 fans, it's tough.
It's hard, and especially with the way that they put it. I mean, it's their crowd really made their voices heard today, especially when Kent scored that equaliser. They were going ballistic, and it really put a lot of pressure on us. But the word you're using there was brave, because we really stood up to it, and we could have totally imploded at 2-1. we didn't panic, and we still sort of tried to play our football, and we're just looking for a wee bit of a break, and thanks to Jota, Moy and Kyogo, we got that.
I'm striving into conspiracy theory territory here, but if we hadn't have got that goal, how many minutes do you think we're going up? Because I don't know if 7 was going up.
It's not a day for me.
I'm kind of joking. Should we not have had a penalty in the second half? The one in Goldson.
I'd have to see it all again.
When you look at the ones that we've had given against us, Matt O'Reilly against Real Madrid, I know it's a different kind of governing body, but even Bernabeu, for me that's a ball that's going towards goal, and it clearly hits his hand. There's no doubt in that. I don't see kind of, if you're looking at the criteria for a penalty nowadays, why that wouldn't be a penalty.
What I would say from it is, when me and you watched the games together, we weren't even screaming for it at the time. I think it's more the reaction you've seen online from it for other people. I'd have to maybe see it again as well, but I didn't think at any point in that game, and I'm happy to be proven wrong here. That's always been the case anyway with me, isn't it? But yeah, I don't think there was any point in that game that I was genuinely screaming for a penalty, but I'd have to see the replays and all that, because it does feel like a genuine blur in that second half, the way that went in and how it unfolded, really.
Yeah. We're 9 points clear. We have been to Pittodrie since we came back. We've been to Easter Road, and we've now been to Ibrox. Alongside Tynecastle, those are our toughest away games. We've now got a better run coming up. I think quite a few home games. I think Rangers are just starting to go back into their kind of tough run of those similar away games coming up. So we're in a wonderful position now. We're into 2023 now. We have a 9-point advantage. We've only dropped 3 points against the other 10 teams this season, and that was a freak result against St Mirren. So we just need to keep winning. Next derby at Celtic Park isn't going to be that far away, really. I think
March,
it's early March.
Yeah.
That's going to fly in.
Is it not late March?
Okay, might be.
Well, it's in March anyway, alright. But yeah, before we know it, we'll be talking about it and probably previewing it all again and everything. Yeah, so you're right. It's a great position to be in. I think when you're coming away from a game like that against any Rangers side, as long as you don't get beat, you're coming away from it happy. And it's maybe a testament to the position we find ourselves in and the football that we play under, Ange, that we're still maybe questioning some of the performances and we're looking for improvement. And that's not a bad thing either, because we should always be looking to improve in general. But ultimately, it's a feeling of total relief, and we're the happier of the two sides, defo.
100%. I think it's our standards, and Celtic performance-wise fell below standards today, because we all expect and think so much of this team. But I think results-wise, a draw is pretty good. Considering it reminds me a little bit of the one last season that was a draw at Celtic Park, much later in the season, much closer to the finishing line. But you kind of came away thinking, I wish we'd have won that. We are the better team generally. We should be winning these games, but a draw kind of hurts them as much as it does us good, if you know what I mean. It just keeps them at arm's length, and if we can keep Rangers 9 points behind us, they're going to rapidly run out of games.
Yeah, and there's what is it? It's less than 20 now to go, isn't it?
Well, I think today was game 20. So yeah, we're in a good position, and I'm just actually going to get up the fixtures we've got coming up. So we've got double header against Killie, obviously the one in the league on Saturday, and then the cup the following Saturday. So no midweek game this midweek, or next midweek. Then get St Mirren at home. After that, we've got Morton, and then Tannadice, Livy at home, St Johnstone away, Aberdeen Hearts at home, St Mirren away, Hibs at home, and Ross County away before the derby. So a real
fixtures.
Opportunity again for us to kind of go on a run, but just take it game at a time.
And I think as well, you've also got to remember that we have got players in to freshen the team up. You've
Yeah,
got to
I
expect
think Awata will make a big difference.
Yeah,
I think when you're talking about bite and a bit of aggression in these fixtures, I think Awata could be a big one. Someone actually commented, there we go, sorry, Paco saying next game at Ibrox will be Awata and Calmac up one, calling it now. I think today was a little bit of an eye-opener at times, that when it's difficult, I think you need a bit more steel in that midfield. And if we're seeing it, and you're all seeing it, Ange will be seeing it as well. Also got, Tony, just touching what we said, got an easy run coming up in January, plenty of time for the new players to settle in. Christie, a legend. I was exactly the same, by the way, thinking Moy was offside. I was convinced. It wasn't just me who failed to celebrate one of the best Celtic goals of the season. We don't really need to touch on that. And finally, Craven mentioning Carter Vickers as a gun, which is Australian kind of slang for being good. I think maybe Aussies can correct me on that, but I think it means like amazing.
Cannot.
You're a gun, Stevie.
Oh, thanks. Well, we're going to debate that one with you, Hamish. But no, CCV was just imperious for us. That second half as well, as you say. Him, Callum McGregor, so important for us, and without them two today, we don't come out of that with a draw.
Right, I feel as if these videos sometimes, especially after these kind of frantic games when you don't know exactly how to feel, they can be a kind of a discovery, a journey of discovery for you. And I feel as if I've come on one during the last half an hour. You know, at the start I was kind of a bit frustrated with various parts of our game today. I think we could have done much better. I'm really content now with that draw. Give us your conclusion.
I'm not changing my mind from what I said before the game. I said get into it. As long as we don't lose, I will be happy. And I am. There is improvements to be made along the way, and hopefully next time we go to Ibrox we'll learn the lessons from the absolute basics there, and having the right personnel to bring on, so that we're not in a position to put certain players in that again. But no, generally happy from it. Can't complain too much.
And 9 clear.
Yep.
Marvellous.
Well done to Celtic.
Yes, that's how we'll conclude. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Nearly 2,000 of them watching live. I'm sure thousands more watching afterwards as well. Thanks to Babity Bowster for having us once again. They're actually kind of the restaurant and pub is closed at the moment, back open on the 9th. So go elsewhere if you're having a wee scoop tonight. Even if you're not, have a good evening and be safe in the knowledge that Celtic are still 9 points clear. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll chat to you soon.